Have you ever used the phrase trust your gut or listen to your gut?
Hey everyone, this is Aaron and Juwon, and you're listening to Wellness for Real People. This show is for people who are on the go, busy, and looking for ways to live their best lives. We focus on wellness topics in mindfulness, exercise, diet, and sleep, and share quick, actionable tactics to improve your health and wellness. We're not perfect, but we're trying to get a little better each day. Let's grow on this journey together.
I think there's a lot of wisdom in those statements. And today we're going to dive deep into gut health. Specifically, we're looking at a fascinating article from University of Colorado Health, and it is titled Improving Your Gut Health Improves All Aspects of Your Health, including your mood. So we're back with another episode of Wellness for Real People. I'm Juwon here with my co-host Aaron, and excited to dive into this conversation with you today. Aaron, before we get into the specifics of the article, what stood out for you as you read it?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that also stood out is you have this internal feeling of like how your gut feels and physically how that makes you feel, but also the article calling out that it can impact you emotionally, and that can trigger a lot of other impacts, like in terms of your sleep quality, your overall mood and feeling about yourself, and your ability to be productive throughout the day. So I thought, like, man, I didn't really think about those things. Like, I've had issues with my gut health before in the past, and it's just interesting to like really take a step back and figure out why is that happening, but then also think about how that's impacting other areas of my life as well.
Absolutely. Um, Kara Mars, a registered dietitian nutritionist, said in the article, the gut is being referred to as the second brain. So when our gastrointestinal system is working as it should, it helps create a better balance that affects our entire body. And I think you alluded to just that. So what is your gut, and what organs is it referring to? The article says, the organs of the gut comprise your mouth, esophagus, stomach, small and large intestines, and the anus. Your liver, gallbladder, pancreas assist in the gut with the digestion of food. So there are a lot of moving parts to this, gut. This general term that we use for all of this, but it's all about that process of a lot about that process of what we eat and processing, to overuse the word process, but how we process, what we ingest. Um, what do we mean, Aaron, when we talk about gut health?
Yeah, and we'll talk about that in terms of what it is and why it's so important. So, the article calls out gut health typically refers to the health of our gut and microbiome, as well as the health and function of the organs, tissues, and membranes that make up our gastrointestinal system. And so, you're thinking about that. That includes millions and trillions of microbes that are both helpful and potentially harmful. So, if we're seeing gut health being impacted in a negative way, that's when bad bacteria can build up, because inside our gut, it also includes good bacteria and bad bacteria, fungi, and viruses that naturally just kind of all are living within our body. Um, we want a gut that we have the microbiomes, or microbes working in harmony. And when the gut bacteria communicates with the other cells in our intestinal tract to help digest food and prevent potentially harmful bacteria from proliferating, that's when we're seeing positive gut health. And it's mostly influenced on what we eat. So we talk about that a lot on the show, but it's really important that we're fueling our bodies correctly. So we're getting the right bacteria in there, trying to help them multiply and colonize and reduce the bad bacteria. And some of the things we talk about in the show all the time: fruits, vegetables, legumes, beans, nuts, seeds, and whole grains are these types of foods that can really help you out. And fresh foods is another big call out as well, too.
Yeah, yeah. I just, it was like a light bulb moment when I realized or learned that, um, you know, how much of our immune system is
Mhm.
actually tied to the gut, right? And
Mhm.
from all the things you just mentioned, I just, for some reason, I never thought about it that way. But
Yeah.
to your point, like the reason why we need to be fueling ourselves with these, whole plant-based foods is because they actually support our, immune system. And when we can get the right things in our body, and get enough fiber and nutrients in our body, like you said, we can give our gut, our microbiome, the tools it needs to be healthy and fully functioning. And so to this day, it still just blows my mind and I think they talked about this in this article. They said, your gut is home to 70% of our immune tissue, which directly relates to how well our body fights infections and battles certain diseases. So in this regard, the gut is critical for our immunity.
Yeah, one other surprising thing too out of that section was they were talking about how gut health may also be connected with obesity, but not in a way that someone might think. It's just caloric intake affecting our weight, but the type of food that we eat and how our gut ferments or breaks down that food. And then that was what impacts how our body regulates blood glucose. And research is starting to show that obesity might be connected with a lack of certain microbes in our gut. So that's even bigger to say it's not just, the fact that, hey, I'm eating less, but I'm just eating the wrong things or doing the wrong things, harming my body with what I'm putting in it that are causing me to be obese. Not that I'm overeating. It could be a variety of other things.
Right. Yeah. That's powerful. Um, they talked a little bit about, and you alluded to this earlier, about the link between mental health and the gut. And I thought this section was interesting. They were saying, much of the immune system is in the gut, and the majority of the body's serotonin is produced in the gut, which has long been known that diet and mental health are linked. So if your gut isn't healthy, then your immune system and even your hormones may be compromised. So you add to that, low serotonin levels, and you may find yourself not feeling well or facing mental health challenges. So this chemical is produced mainly in the gut, plays a key role in our sleep, our mood, our anxiety, our wound healing, our digestion, our libido, and more. Which I thought was just fascinating.
Crazy. It's so much. It's so many the impacts and those trigger other impacts. So it's like if we could tackle the gut and figure out a way to make that healthy, we're going to see some positive returns on all these other aspects of our lives. So this article got me thinking a lot. Want me to do a lot more research on this topic, and specifically, how do you have a healthier gut?
Yeah. So they did talk about some dietary, and you brought up a few of them. They dove a little bit deeper. We'll get into that. But if you're thinking, what are some signs that my gut isn't working properly? They mentioned some things to look out for, and definitely contact your primary care physician or your healthcare team. Um, they say first and foremost, pay attention to your bowel movements, such as constipation or diarrhea. Other symptoms to look for may include blood in your stool, abdomen pain, cramping or bloating, a drastic change in appetite, a decrease in weight, and an increase in food sensitivity. So just some things to keep a lookout for, if you're experiencing those or notice those in someone that you love. So, Aaron, a little bit further down the article, they talk about what are some of the foods that are best for gut health, and you kind of touched on a few of them earlier, but I think there's some other recommendations that we can definitely kind of go through as well.
Yeah, on top of that, too, they also called out olives and olive oil, fatty fish such as sardines, salmon, anchovies, herbs like oregano, turmeric, rosemary, and basil. Essentially, turmeric's in a lot of things that I've seen, like kind of even in some of the tea products. That's something that's healthy for your gut. And then fermented dairy with live cultures and other fermented foods such as kimchi, sauerkraut, kombucha. And while these, foods are great, foods that are highly processed and high sugar foods can still be used. It's not going to totally ruin your gut health, but moderation is super important. So we're not saying, like, even if further down the article saying that people need to become a vegetarian or a vegan, it's more so just having more of those rich fiber foods in your body and system, and that you're putting more good things into your body than not on a regular basis.
Absolutely, absolutely. We talked about some of the fermented foods, kimchi, sauerkraut, kombucha, in another recent episode. It was all about fiber and fermentation, right? These
Yes.
things keep coming up again and again, from different sources. But um, you know, I just love these simple recommendations that to keep an eye on, like you said. And I love that the article talked about not focusing on the extremes, like you mentioned, right? Don't have to go all the way to vegan per se, but also don't eat 100% all ultra processed foods either, right? Like you mentioned, like find the right the right balance, and really maybe it's not 50-50, but more, they mentioned more like 85-15, right? So there's still a little room for,
You
some
got some
fun.
fun, but
Yeah.
at the same time, too much fun. You know how that goes. All kinds of in that.
Right, right. Yeah. Um, I thought there's a little bit of an interesting take here on, should we take vitamins or probiotics or other supplements to improve my gut health? And Mars said, it depends, because oftentimes taking them can be seen as a one-stop solution, but just taking them without changing your diet won't do much good. She said we need fiber-rich foods such as nuts, seeds, vegetables, fruits, whole grains, legumes, along with any vitamin or supplement regimen. And
Yep.
so I always say it's a supplement, not a substitute,
Mhm.
right? And so there is no magical, one pill or thing you can take,
Right.
or in our case, we sell, we sell tea. There's no magical, one tea that you can drink that's just going to solve all of your problems. If someone's telling you that, I would run. But things can be helpful,
Yeah.
right? But the fundamentals are the fundamentals, and those are the things that we've been talking about in this episode and so many of our other episodes, of this show. That we got to put the right things in our body consistently, and then supplements, yes, can help. They can help. It's the icing on the cake. It can help take you over the top, but it's not the, to use the analogy, it's not the cake itself. That's really built on the habits of the healthy diet, um, whole fruits and vegetables, single ingredient foods, getting the right sleep, exercise, stress management, all of these kinds of things. So I thought that was a very, very insightful. There's a lot in this article. I mean, this is a really in-depth piece, and we'll definitely link to it in the show notes. I don't want to get into all of the details and spoil all the fun for you if you want to read the article. I think we've really covered most of the high level things that you know uh, that I pulled out from the article. The last section here was, is it too late to start paying attention to my gut health? And I really like this advice.
Mhm.
They say it's never too late. You can start today. It doesn't have to be as hard as everyone makes it. The problem is, like she said, we're in a society where everyone's trying to sell you something. And sometimes these extreme diets end up altering our gut microbiome as we try to do drastic things to get thin instead of focusing on actually getting healthy. I thought that was really, really powerful. She mentioned, don't focus on perfection, just focus on, making progress. And we don't have to go to these extremes like we mentioned before. It's not about, 100% strict diet, but it's about, can we get 80 to 85% of the time doing the right things, and leave a little room, as you mentioned, Aaron, a little bit earlier, for some fun and spontaneity. But if we can just stick to that on a daily, a weekly, monthly basis, we can start to build that positive momentum in the right direction, kind of get that snowball rolling, and start to change, our gut health and so many other things that go along with it. So, Aaron, any other final thoughts or takeaways from you on this article?
No, that was it, man. Close it out perfectly. The biggest one too is like don't just look at caloric intake, but think about what you're putting into your body. The damage that you do to your gut isn't always immediate; it happens over time. So, like I said, it's not too late now. Take those steps today, and then try to make those changes. But we always, emphasize small incremental changes, not trying to shift the whole world overnight.
Absolutely. So again, we'll link to this in the show notes so you can read the entire article. We'll be back soon with another episode of Wellness for Real People. In the meantime, take care.
Thanks, everybody.